Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? It's Derek Hayden here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Before we kick it off, I want to remind you all that we do record our interviews by video. You can find those on YouTube. We'll share those on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Let's go ahead and kick it off with today's guest. Today's guest graduated from the University of Illinois with her master's in beef cattle nutrition. She later graduated from Pace Law School. She is currently the principal attorney at Rincker Law. She's an adjunct professor at Vermont Law School Online, as well as an adjunct professor at the University of Illinois in Champaign. She also has a laundry list of other honors and accomplishments that might take the entire podcast to announce to y'all, so we won't do that. But I think the one that she is most proud of is being a new mom. Ladies and gentlemen of Central Illinois, please welcome to the show, Miss Cari Rincker. How are you doing, Cari?
I am doing great. So great to be here with you too.
No, awesome. Thanks for jumping on. With all that going on, it sounds like you have a lot of spare time to pick up and do extra things, right?
Yes, I feel like my life is divided in two parts. It's before children and now after parents. So life has changed forever.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. Yeah, well, you're still doing a good job of keeping up on social media. You seem to be able to do a good job of keeping up with that. And I know that's probably tough. So kudos to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But, I think that it's a misconception that you can do it all. I have a great team behind me, including somebody that helps me with social media. So I think that that's a big piece of advice I have for entrepreneurs is get good help.
Yeah,
cool. Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, we'll go ahead and kick it off with Garrett leading you through our speed round questions to get to know you a little bit better.
Yep, absolutely. So for all our listeners and viewers, just to get you a little bit better perspective on who Cari Rincker is and some of the things that she likes. So we'll start off. What was the first concert that you ever attended?
The Beach Boys, absolutely.
we just talked about it like 5 minutes ago. That's funny. Your favorite movie?
When Harry Met Sally. So.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
iPhone or Android?
Oh, iPhone all the way.
Boom. Favorite social media platform?
Ooh, you know what? I think a lot of people would be surprised that I love Snapchat. So,
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gotcha. And the last question is, why Central Illinois?
This is my home, and this is where I grew up, and I know that I went away in different parts of my life, but there's nowhere else in the world that I'd rather be than right here.
Gotcha. That's a great
Awesome.
answer.
Yes. So, Cari, we talked about a few of your accolades and accomplishments in the intro. Give us a quick rundown of how you got to where you are now. You can take it back as far as you want, or, wherever you want to start, just bring us up to speed with where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up on a beef cattle farm outside of Shelbyville, Illinois, and I have advanced degrees in animal science. And, I didn't really grow up around a lot of attorneys. I mean, I know that there are certainly some lawyers in Shelbyville, but I didn't really know what lawyers did. And then after I finished my bachelor's degree, I did an internship on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where I interned for a Texas congressman. At the time, I just graduated from Texas A&M University. And there's a joke that there's, about lawyers in Washington, D.C., but the truth is there are a lot of attorneys there. And I really got to understand the law and more about the legal profession. I stayed at the Georgetown Law Dorms. And at that time, I'd already committed to go to the University of Illinois for graduate school. I just really thought about it, and I just felt pulled to go be an attorney and to help farm families in a different capacity. And so that would lead me onto the path to go to law school and then ultimately to become a food and agriculture lawyer.
Very cool. Well, you've done a good job, like we said, sharing what you do through social media. That's one thing that I've always noticed about you is you do a really good job of telling your story. Garrett and I probably already knew your story just from following you on social media.
Yeah,
so you've done
absolutely.
a really good job. You said you have a good team behind you. So tell us about your team and your locations and everything that goes into Rincker Law.
Yeah, so I have offices both in Champaign and Shelbyville, Illinois, my hometown. And I still actually have an office in New York City and in Manhattan, in the heart of Midtown there. And I have a team of 4 different attorneys that work for me and 4 legal assistants, a part-time bookkeeper, and a part-time proofreader, editor. I also have consultants that work for me. Like I have somebody who helps me with my social media as well. And then in my personal life, I even have a personal assistant and things. And I think that my big advice for entrepreneurs is that you need help to get bandwidth. And my time is valuable to me now more than ever because I am a parent. And so I want to get more done in less time. And in order to do that, I have to have a great team behind me.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's awesome. So do you utilize I want to say virtual assistants? Some of them are obviously employees of Rincker Law, but you said you have a few assistants that are outside of Rincker Law. Where do you find those people to help you from?
Yeah, Derek, actually, I just hired a contract paralegal, and she is very bright and talented. I'm really looking forward to working with her. And so I worked with a company who specifically hires paralegals, but I have worked with virtual assistants in the past. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages in having somebody be remote. But I think that COVID has taught us all that, you don't need to be in the same office space in order to have a productive working environment with those people.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Talk to us a little bit about your practices and what exactly you specialize in, or kind of, what your, I don't want to say your niche, but I don't want to coin your phrase that you used the last time that Derek and I spoke with you. I hopefully you have purchased that phrase at this point, but tell us a little bit about what exactly it is that you specialize in.
So about 75% of my practice area is family law, and the other part of it is mixed bag, primarily food and agriculture law, business law, estate planning. I do a few trademarks, etc. So yes, Garrett, I do horses and divorces. And no, I have not trademarked that yet, but got it on my to-do list.
No, I that's got to be a book at some point.
Or a t-shirt. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I heard once that there's a bar in New York City called Horses and Divorces. So I think I need to head there one day.
Yeah, I need to try to buy into that business. Yeah.
Oh, like Derek said, I think here in our rural Shelby County area for sure, or just Central Illinois period, that t-shirt would sell very well in most areas, in most of our areas. So.
Yep, for sure. So you've got a few things going on then, Cari, just a couple things. I guess what you said before is pre-kids and post-kids. What are some of the hurdles pre-kids that you had as far as building your businesses, that type of stuff? And obviously we know as far as time goes, post-kids, that's probably a new hurdle for you, but tell us a little bit about some of the hurdles you've had to overcome. What are some of the tougher things as a business owner that you've been able to get past or through?
So I'm a big fan of the book called Miracle Morning. So I don't know if either one of you have read the book, but that book has changed my life. And so for years of my life, I would wake up very early in the day and I would do things like, I'm a big journaler. And that would also be my time that I would spend, planning my day, visualizing my day. I would even also get like maybe a good power hour in of work done, and between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, whenever most people are asleep. And when people would ask me things like, how did you write a book? It's like, well, I wake up early and I get that hour in then. And so I had that time. but now that I have a child, I've kind of lost that time. And so that's been one of the struggles that I have had, is that how do I make time for me? And so that's one of the challenges that I have. And I do have some morning childcare right now where I'm able to have a little bit of focus. It's later on in the morning. It's from about 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning. But I think that that's important as a business owner or a professional to be able to make that time for yourself, no matter when it is. And for me, I think that taking that time at the beginning of the day is so important. So I think that time management and starting off in the morning is really important. Another big lesson that I have learned sort of from my pre-child life to now me being a parent is that I have to delegate out of necessity now. And so I think that as my business has grown, I've had to let go more and more tasks, but now I really have to let go because I have no choice. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that business owners can make is they want to just do everything themselves. And you can't grow if you do everything yourselves. And I don't know if either one of you have read the book, E-Myth, Entrepreneurial Myth, but E-Myth talks a lot about the person who makes pies, and she would wake up early and she would make the dough and she'd prepare all the pies. She'd work all day at the pie shop and she'd clean up at night. And she never really felt freedom from her business until she taught other people how to make the pies. And I think that that's been one of the biggest challenges for me as a business owner, is try to teach people my recipe on how to make the pie.
Very true. That's very true. That's one thing that Garrett and I talk about is actually in our last podcast, our guest talked about narrowing your focus, and what you're really good at, and you're going to have to let other people handle what you're not good at.
Yep.
And, Garrett and I listen to podcasts a lot, and that's one of the ones we listen to is they say, you do what you're the best at and let someone else handle what you're terrible at. And you're going to find some growth. And it's tough sometimes because you want to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, but sometimes you just got to trust that you're doing the right thing and allowing someone else to handle what they're good at. And I feel like growth will happen at that point when you're ready to let go a little bit of what you had been or wanted to really be involved in. So I can tell that's probably difficult for a lot of driven business leaders. So for sure.
When you started your practice, were you more broad in what type of clients you took on, or were you very narrow from the beginning?
Oh, no. So I was working out of a studio apartment on the Upper East Side in New York City, just trying to pay rent. So I practiced door law, which meant I just took whatever came through the door. And so it was very diverse. In fact, I caught myself doing a court appearance for a criminal arraignment once or twice. And, I got followed out of the courthouse with a bunch of reporters. I'm like, no comment. And I have never done a criminal appearance since then. So no one's called from jail. So I think that when I first started, I for sure just took whatever I could to pay rent. But then, with matrimonial law, I had got my first divorce, and I was fortunate enough to get a good mentor. And that mentor taught me a lot and handheld me through that first experience, and then my second, and then I got good at it. And there's a saying with lawyers that, or probably for any profession really, that you don't find your practice finds you. And I think it's really important as a business owner to maybe at the very beginning just explore, and then kind of see what you gravitate towards and what gravitates towards you. But then you really need to focus after that.
Yeah. Do you feel like once you decided to make a narrow focus that it made a huge change in your career?
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I know that some would argue that I still am doing too many things, but to me, my slogan is that I do food, farm, and family. And I think that all three of those areas are intrinsically connected in different ways. And the good thing about family law is it really kind of touches upon a lot of different areas of the law too.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. So you do some podcasting and interviewing of your own, Cari. So tell our listeners a little bit about your podcast, your show, what topics you try to hit on. Then from there, I want to ask a few more questions too.
Yeah, so I have a podcast with Purdue University. It's called Ag Law Today. So we are getting ready to start recording here on the other side of Labor Day again. So there will be some new episodes that will be posted. And we just try to cover a myriad of areas that affect farmers and agriculture producers. I mean, it's really important to me as a professional to not talk about what the law should or shouldn't be. Just here's the issue. How do we help people navigate this particular issue and to have as much practical feedback as possible?
Very cool. Do you feel like you have gained a lot of, for people out there who are considering podcasting? We have a lot of people who ask us, is it worth your time? Is it something that you would recommend? And I know for Garrett and I, we're still fairly new in it, but the people we've met, even being selfish, the stuff that we've learned from the people that we've interviewed has been ridiculous. So do you feel like you've been able to take something away from it? And also, do you feel like it has helped your business grow doing your podcast?
So I love podcasts. I mean, I think that they are a tremendous opportunity, no matter which side of the microphone that you are in. I mean, I feel like I learn just as much by interviewing people and being interviewed as well on both sides. And, it also gives me a great opportunity as a business owner to reach out to people that I wouldn't otherwise reach out to. I don't know why I'm not reaching out to them, but I'm not. And it gives me an excuse in a way to have a conversation with them. And especially with video conferencing technology, I mean, you don't even need to be in the same locality, right? And you could record a podcast with somebody who's maybe just, a drive away or whatever. And so I think that there's tremendous opportunity there. And I don't know, I can't tell you for certain whether or not it's made an impact in my business, because I feel like so much with marketing is very indirect. I mean, it's hard to say that, I recorded this podcast and I got these 3 clients from that. But I want to be a resource to my clients and my community in the same way that you guys are as well. And so I think it's really important for business owners and entrepreneurs to find their way to do that, whether or not it's podcasting or vlogging. I'm not cool enough to vlog, but
I don't either.
I'm definitely not cool enough to TikTok, but in whatever information platform that they choose to use, I think that use that and be a resource for your community.
Yep. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. When Derek kind of came up with the idea of doing this at first, I was like, man, is he crazy? But the amount of things that I have learned since we have started doing this, and it's put us with people who have a very similar thought process, but maybe do things in a different way. And it's like, holy cow, we should try this. The golden nuggets that we have taken from this, or I know I have, has been amazing. I mean, I've wrote down the books that you have spoke about. It's just what other people are reading, what are they doing, and how did they make it work for them? And it's great resources. Yeah. And seeing what other people are doing to, like you said, to, I don't want to say multiply themselves, but pass off some of the work. And, Garrett and I, when we first started working together, we were like doing Facebook Lives, and just, we've shifted our focus because we just don't have as much time. Luckily, we've grown our books of business to where it just doesn't work out that we can sit down and do a Facebook Live together all the time. So like, let's just do the podcast. We'll schedule it in every other Friday, whatever happens to be. And so, yeah, it kind of shifts, but listening to how people have started and then what they do now,
and then again, selfishly, we can use that on our own and say, here we go. Let's try what they did.
Yeah. And the common theme still rings is just like what you spoke about earlier, Cari, is a lot of whatever business it is, they're open to anything at that point, whatever comes to them. And then things start to click whenever they decide, okay, I'm really going to look at this. I'm going to stick to this and I'm going to stay in my lane. And then it always seems like the story from there is things just go crazy and grow from that point.
Yeah, agreed. And with social media, I mean, along those same lines, I think that for business owners, try different platforms. Just try it out. Maybe Facebook Live works for you. Maybe it doesn't, but there's no harm in trying.
Yep.
And I from my experience, I feel like you can kind of only do a couple platforms well. You could have a presence on a lot of different platforms, but I think it's best to pick 1, 2, 3 different platforms and like really just, go for it there.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah. I got rid of Twitter a while ago because I couldn't keep up with all the tweeting. And then, and I'd say my focus is LinkedIn and occasionally Facebook. And I've got a business Instagram. I don't think I posted on it for 6 months, but yeah, I agree. I just can't keep up with all of it. So Cari, do you use Snapchat for business, or is that more of a personal use?
Sometimes a little bit of both. I think at the end of the day, people like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think what I appreciate about social media, or specifically with Snapchat, is that, it doesn't have to be all filtered and perfect, right? Like, here's a snap of like my real life. And, here's my office. It's not always, pristine. And, and I think that that's why I appreciate Snapchat, and then it disappears. Right.
Right.
And so I think that some advice that I have for fellow entrepreneurs too is that you don't have to be so perfect on social media. I mean, I really appreciate that the fact that the two of you both feel like you know me through social media. I mean, that's what I want people to feel like they do, like they know, like the real me. And, and I think that oftentimes entrepreneurs are coming to social media and they're just trying to sell their products.
Yep.
And that's for sure never going to be my tone, because I feel like social media is like going to a party. Like, who wants to talk to the person at the party who's like, here's my card, this is what I do, and buy this from me? Like, no, like, it's a party, grab a drink, have a conversation. And that's what social media is like for me.
Oh yeah, I like the grab a drink part. That sounds fun.
Absolutely. No, and just with what we see, I mean, that's exactly what you portray online. It's not, hey, you have to buy this. It's, hey, check out this and have a drink. I mean, that's the perfect way to say it.
One of our other guests actually almost like not word for word, but pretty close to what you said. They said, don't, just be yourself, be genuine. Don't go on and say, come get a free quote for your auto insurance and we'll save you 20. People are tired of hearing that. They hear it nonstop from everybody else on commercials. And just be yourself. And if they decide to come talk to you, more power to them. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's tough to tell newer entrepreneurs that, because they want to go out and sell, and they, like you said, they're trying to make rent. So, it's a tough for newer entrepreneurs. It's a tough give and take for them, for sure. So
I know, but at the same time, and it's hard because, but it's almost like they're making it worse for them by doing that, right? Because you're kind of like leaking desperation when you're doing that, and instead of just like, one of my favorite books, is my third book that I'm going to be mentioning, is that book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of my favorite chapters, and I'm going to misquote Mr. Carnegie, but it's basically like, people don't care about you, they care about themselves.
Yeah.
And so how can you, and you guys are doing that with this podcast, right? You're serving your community, you're giving them information. It's like, why are people going to like get your products from you? Like at the end of the day, you're there to be a resource to them. How can you help them? You know, and when they need that need, when they have that need, like you just want to be the person that they contact.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I'm just about to actually finish that book. In the book there, he talks about going to a party, and there was an individual that he wanted to speak with. And he's like, I literally said nothing to this guy for 3 hours. And at the end of the party, he said, you were the best conversationalist I've ever met in my life. And he goes, I never said a word. All I did was ask the guy small questions, and he just kept talking about, you know, his life. And that's so true. It needs to be so little about you and more about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. So, Cari, you mentioned earlier on you wrote a book, or did you write 2 books?
Goodness gracious, I've written 3.
3 books. Holy, my goodness!
You just wrote a children's book too, didn't you?
I did. It is presently being illustrated right now. So
I've got one back. You actually sent us a book. I think 2 of the books I've got in my
Yeah.
book here.
Yes.
So, yeah. Tell us about your books.
So my first book is the field guide for New York farmers and food entrepreneurs. It's basically just a book on New York food and agriculture law. Then my second book is a book on New York family law issues. It's called Onward and Upward. And then the third book decided to combine the 2 and talk about agriculture issues and family law. So now I need to work on the Illinois versions of those 2 books that I began with. So it's a fun, my mom likes to call it a side hobby. It is not a hobby. I do enjoy writing books. I think that books are a great way for branding as well. No one really gets, very few people, I should say, actually get rich by selling books.
Sure.
But I think it's a resource for my clients. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the children's book.
Yeah, so I wrote a poem. I've been loving reading all these children's books to my little one. And so it's a little bit of a rhyme, and it's about his first trip to the farm with my dad and exploring all the cows. So anyway, it's fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's a very, very different piece of work than my initial.
Right.
No, that's awesome.
Cool.
When I saw Facebook that you had posted that you were looking for an illustrator, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you're a rock star. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I think I even told Derek, I'm like, she wrote a children's book. I'm like, I can't, that's just amazing. I mean, so I commend you, because I think you're a rock star with what you got going on. So.
Yep. Kudos to you, Cari. You're doing awesome, and you are motivating for Garrett and I. You're going to outdo us. No, there's no doubt about it, but we try to keep up with you.
But you guys are doing a great job, and I love this podcast. I mean, you guys are both so talented, and our community is lucky to have both of you very much.
Well, thank you. And you as well. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Well, we are getting close to time, Cari. Before we get off of here, would you let our listeners know what the best way to contact you is, where they can follow you on social media? Just give us a quick rundown of best place to find you.
Sure. My professional handle is at Rincker Law, RINCKERLAW. So you can find me there on Facebook and also on Instagram.
Perfect. So Rincker Law, don't forget the C.
That's right.
Awesome. And all you listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on whatever platform you consume podcasts on. Also, while you're there, please leave us a review. We'd greatly appreciate it. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll share our loyal guests and listeners' feedback there as well. So until next time, Cari, you have officially been civilized. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Cari. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.